Hi everyone, thank you for checking out my channel. This is Lucina Shalane Dela Cruz, and today is going to be about my life story. I was born January 18th, 1987, to Jack and Jolene Pradovich in Ketchikan, Alaska, but mostly grew up in Kloak. I went to school there until the 8th grade. My parents divorced, and my mom left my dad for another man. My parents' divorce really took a toll on me. It hurt me because before the divorce, my mom told me that they were just friends. It wasn't until one night my mom forgot to pick me up and my cousin after a dance. I knew where they were. He stayed. He was a logger. Um, the first time I ever hit someone, I caught them in bed, and John got in my face and started getting in my face, so I punched him in the nose. That was the first time I ever hit somebody. I ran and told my cousin to run. We had to jump into a taxi and head home. And my parents were alcoholics, bad alcoholics, and my dad would get into yelling and pounding in the walls. Sometimes pound on my mother because of this. I was embarrassed to bring home friends. I never knew if they'd be clean, sober, drunk, or if they were fighting. I also wondered about my mom all the time, if she was okay, and I believe the reason I felt I had to protect her was because then this is also my first memory. My dad came home from work, and I had asked my dad, why is mom always on the phone? They must have had a discussion about this before, because my dad just grabbed my mom's hair and started to beat her up. I remember being on the porch or on the couch, crying and screaming, begging for them to stop. I wanted him to stop, but he wasn't satisfied till there was blood everywhere, my mom's blood. From that day on, I felt it was my responsibility to make sure my mom is safe. After a few, after, after my mom left my dad, I was 14. I moved to Seaside, Oregon. I was scared. I had never really left Kloak before. I was in Seattle when my grandma Joyce was sick, but this was different. My mom was different, and I hated him from the very moment I met him, and I honestly still don't care for him. Him and my mom were too busy with their own lives to notice that one day me and my mom were arguing, and we started to walk ahead of me, and I ran into a guy named Gerardo, and he gave me his phone number to call. I had barely known him, but my mom and John wanted to be alone, and literally dropped me off with this guy at work. We walked to the beach and started talking about things like where I'm from or why I'm down here. I should have left him. Our first official date, he brought me flowers. We walked to the beach on the prom, went to the arcade. We were having fun until we were walking home, and all of a sudden a truck stops, and 5 guys jump out and have bats and chains. They smack him once in the back, and he ran, leaving me there. I was scared. They turned on me, and thankfully, as I said, I told him they told me to tell him that he was dead. My junior year of high school was coming up soon, and my mom is not in her clear mind about things. She was more focused on to what John was doing, and I forged her signature and filled out all the paperwork so I could go to school. I started working at the Four Winds, where I met my friend Rocky. We became best friends at work, at school. The Hispanic girls were horrible to me at Seaside High School because I was dating one of theirs. He was also 21 and I was 15, just turning 16 when I met him. I thought he was my Prince Charming until I found out his true side. He found a picture of a guy friend I had in my motel room, and he choked me and made me rip up the picture. I should have left. In my head, it's better to be with somebody than it is to be alone in a place where I didn't know anybody and be all alone. we were hardly on the motel we lived in, so I pretty much had moved in with Gerardo because he was possessive, and he became possessive, controlling, and extremely jealous of everything and anyone. It couldn't I couldn't even eat at my favorite Chinese restaurant place. A guy from school worked there, and he said hi to me once, and from that moment on I could never eat there again. But I would sneak there, and I forgot one day to throw away the box container, and it caused a huge fight, so bad the neighbors called the police. My senior year was approaching, and he did not want me to go to school, and I did anyways. And in late September, I found out I was pregnant. I went through the whole senior year pregnant. Also, the terms and agreements was that I had to use his clothes to school, and he had to drop me off and pick me up. I was miserable, depressed, but when I found out I was pregnant, I was beyond excited. I had taken a pregnancy test from the dollar store, so at first I didn't believe it was true because it was cheap, but it didn't, and maybe thought it didn't work. So I made a doctor's appointment, and they confirmed my pregnancy. Going to school pregnant was awkward, but I knew I wanted a good future for my baby, and I didn't get made fun of or anything. I actually got support. They made baby clothes drives for me when I thought that was sweet. I graduated from Seaside High School 3 days after my emergency C-section with my son. I was in labor for over 24 hours. I definitely got an epidural, but I wasn't dilating, and the baby boy was getting stressed, so they decided to do an emergency C-section. My son Joel was born June 1st, 2005. I graduated 3 days after that. At first, I didn't want to walk, but my mom talked me into walking, which I'm glad I did. I got married shortly after, August 28th, 2005. Honestly, the worst mistake of my life, getting married so young, technically still married even though we've been separated over 10 years. He lives somewhere in Mexico, and I haven't had contact with him in a very long time. Our oldest son is 15, and he has never ever helped once. No birthday cards, no Christmas gifts, nothing. Same goes for Anna Rosa. She has no memory of her dad. The last time she saw him, she was 1, and my son was 5. Anyways, we moved to Tigard, Oregon, so I can go to school and go to the Portland Career College for medical assisting, which I graduated with honors in 2008. I got a job 2 months after I graduated at Chemawa Indian Health Center. I loved working there. I thought I was living my dream. We had our own house, a car, career, a good, beautiful son, and I thought what was a truthful, faithful husband. Plus, on December 26th, I found out I was pregnant. We were so excited. I told probably I couldn't have any more kids due to so much scar tissue from the previous C-section. So they said that if I could get pregnant, it could take up to 1 to 2 years. So I stopped taking birth control, and within a month, I was pregnant with my daughter. My son, who was 4 at the time, he kept saying niña, niña on my stomach, which means girl in Spanish. And we were like, well, maybe it could be a girl, it could be a boy. We don't know yet, but he kept saying, no, niña, niña. When it came down to finding out whether it was a girl or a boy, it was a special event. My mom, my dad, my stepdad, Gerardo, and Joel were all there in the room. And the first, she wouldn't open her legs, and the doctor put more gel and moved my tummy around, and in a split second, she opened her legs. And of course, it was a girl, a niña. It was so special. We all cried. I was 5 months pregnant when my whole life I had known came crumbling down. It all started when I got excited to get off work early and go baby shopping, and with Gerardo, and his attitude was ruining it, and we turned into a huge argument, and he and the just got to go to school, but we were running from Warren Seaside. He got into trouble and was deported, and he had found out I was pregnant with Joel. He came back illegally. The argument led to us going our separate ways. He left, and me and my dad went baby shopping. When I came home, he was trying to be nice. I was still heated, so I refused to give in. I also threw a fit, saying there was nothing to eat in the house. He said that he'd go down the road to the 7-Eleven and get me some snacks. He tried to kiss me, but I refused him. I wish I didn't, because I didn't know that that would be the last time I ever saw him free, and I started to get more and more mad as it took longer. At 1 a.m. in the morning, I got a knock on the door, and it was the police. They have a law where you must have lights on your bike, and he didn't, so they stopped him and found out he had a warrant out of Seaside. They told me that he wanted to make sure I got this ice cream. I was so upset I couldn't even think about eating it. Stuffed it in the freezer, and they left his bike on the porch. Police saw how upset I was and told me not to worry, he'd probably be out by tomorrow. But he didn't know what I knew about his immigration status. I knew he'd be deported. I called all night to see if he had bail. At 8 in the morning, they said he had bail, which gave me hope. And now, the time I loved this man so much. My dad and I took back all the baby stuff in order to get the money to bail him out. Once we had the chance and the money and drove to the jail he was at, they said that ICE had put a hold on him. So that means all the money that we had just did was for nothing. I never knew I would be in such a nightmare. It was court dates, phone calls, writing letters, lonely nights, raising 2 kids on my own. But back to the ice cream, I didn't understand why my mom couldn't be there for me, and she was so sick. And then I mentioned to her the ice cream, and I don't know how he got about all the stuff in there, but he did. I was halfway full of little bags of heroin. My mom got excited, and that's when I found out everything he had been doing. Selling to my mom and to my stepdad, and God knows whatever. I didn't know he had been selling drugs, and I knew my stepdad was a user, but my mom totally caught me by surprise. After she knew I found out and I was going to really need her, she quit, but she had the worst severe withdrawals ever. And it took her months to even feel better. She got clean before my daughter Anna Rosa was born. The name was supposed to be Joycelyn Ariana, but because he was in jail, I wanted him to have a part of the name somehow. So we came up with Anna Rosa. We had to put La Nina in there somewhere because of Joel. So we put Anna Rosa. La Nina is her name since her brother called Nina. But me, in a week or less being out of the hospital, I became sick. I thought I was just getting a cold, but by midnight it was so cold and everything hurt. I called my mom and stepdad. My stepdad took me to the hospital, and there they ran some tests. I thought they were going to say something viral. They were like, you got I can't even understand my own handwriting. Hold on. As I was admitted right away, my temp was so high, and they couldn't get it down. They had to lay me on a big ice. Being sick after giving birth was the start of my addiction. The doctors had me on strong pain meds, and so much I was hallucinating. I was seeing blackbirds flying through the window, but the doctors refused to lower my dose because he said I was too sick and I'd be in extreme pain. I was in the hospital for a month and 1 day, and my dad was there every single day. When I finally got out of the hospital, the doctor sent me home with a huge bottle of oxycodone. I'll never forget my first high. My mom was off somewhere with John, so I called to go to their place with the kids because my place was where my dad was drinking and drunk and being dumb. I was at my mom's, and Joel's playing with his cars on the round table with his with his little cars and toys. Anna Rosa was sleeping peacefully in her bassinet. I realized I hadn't taken my meds yet, and so I took them, including the oxy. I never abused them. Never, I took them exactly how they prescribed and told me to. And all of a sudden, I felt a warm, fuzzy feeling from head to toe. A feeling the best feeling I ever felt in my life. The feeling I felt at that moment, nothing mattered. My kids were happy. Who cares if my dad was drunk? And if my mom and her husband were off doing heroin? And what about my husband being deported? What about my job being on the line? What about me not speaking with my best friend? There is a lot there. The doctor I worked for, he also was my primary doctor, and he diagnosed me with depression, anxiety, PTSD, and borderline personality disorder and insomnia. He gave me a pill for everything. He gave me one to wake up, to be stable, my mood for depression, my mood for anxiety, my back pain. I had pain still from everything at the age of 23. Some of the meds were strong, such as anxiety, Klonopin, my tramadol, and nerve pain medication. The anxiety, the med was super strong and to take a long time for my body to adjust. It was horrible, nodding off at work, nodding while I was driving, and he said it took time before. I told my doctor, and he said it just takes time for your body to adjust, and that was all. One day when there's 2 no-shows in a row, I decided to take a nap in the bathroom when my doctor just took an early lunch. I set my alarm for 15 minutes later. 3 hours later, there was pounding on the door. They told me they needed to let me go. My life was too chaotic with being a single parent of plus and with a newborn and problems with my husband, and so they let me go. I cried. I felt this was the worst thing and that could happen, and this was the beginning of my downfall. This will be part 1 of my life story. We'll get more to the other one later. So thank you for checking out my channel. Hit like and subscribe if you like. Thank you. Bye.